The history of American trucks tells a story of innovation, ranging from hand-crank starters to cab-over designs. But while those innovations shaped the industry, many have disappeared over time. Join us as we take a look at Piece 15 features found in trucks and other vehicles that technology and trends have done away with. 1. Cab-over engine (COE) trucks. Cab-over engine (COE) trucks, famous in debuting in America during the mid-20th century, had a unique cabin design and compact machinery build. Engineers at Ford and Chevrolet were able to construct U.S. regulations by placing the driver cabin on top of the truck engine, thus increasing space within the vehicle. Urban logistics thrived with the use of COES due to how easy these trucks were to maneuver. However, with the ease of deregulation in the 1980s, trucking laws became too relaxed, allowing long-nosed trucks to haul more payload. Due to the increase in driver discomfort on COEs, there was not new strain on long-haul divisions. In the end, these drivers experienced rough rides and claustrophobic cabins. By the change of millennium, American companies completely left the COE market. However, unlike America, Japan and Europe still utilize these types of trucks. With time, COE vehicles have become celebrated retro classics, but contemporary versions of these are almost non-existent in the US and have been replaced with streamlined modern trucks. Number 2. Twin-steer axles. GMC Astro 95 is one of the trucks that incorporate twin-steer axles. The innovation of twin-steer axles was instrumental in enlarging the maximal payload capacity of vehicles, as it allows the weight to be spread across two different front axles, and subsequently eliminated problems associated with surpassing the axle weight limits. These axle systems were important innovations in the suspension technology of trucks used for specialized hauling, like logging or transporting heavy machinery in the 60s and 70s. However, the introduction of air ride systems and steerable lift axles brought much less complex forms of suspension technology that achieved the same suspension weight distribution. There was also a change in other weight regulations that made it easier to transport standard freights and eliminated the need for twin front axles. Since the 2000s, twin rigid steerage has become a niche focus, mostly for mobile cranes or oilfield trucks. These modern-day cranes and oilfield trucks are simpler in construction and more fuel efficient as they have one intelligent load managing system. Number 3. Mechanical governors. Mechanical governors, used in trucks made before the 1980s, are devices that were used to physically limit the engine's RPM to prevent it from over-revving. They incorporated centrifugal force by rotating weights to regulate the fuel flow, ensuring that the speed at which the engine ran was safe. Though these served their purpose during that time, they were not very accurate and could not adjust to driving conditions on the fly. With the emergence of electronic control units, ECUs, in the 90s, governors became irrelevant. Current ECUs improve performance, fuel economy, and emissions by always listening to sensors and modifying engine settings. This improvement also made it possible to have cruise control and automatic gear shifting. Nowadays, mechanical governors are only found in vintage engines restoration works or industrial engines, replaced by standard systems. Number 4. Auxiliary power units, APUs, with gasoline engines. Long-distance trucks in the mid-20th century utilized gasoline-powered APUs, codenamed Thermo King Tri-Pack. With this system, multiple amenities such as radios and air conditioners could be utilized without turning on the diesel engine. While these compact gasoline engines were better than idling, they did pose maintenance and fire hazards. Stricter emission laws and increased fuel prices in the 2000s shifted the focus towards diesel APUs combined with battery power. Innovations like EPA-compliant idle reduction technologies and shore power at truck stop locations made gasoline APUs obsolete. Now the industry is dominated by quiet and solar-powered lithium-ion battery packs, which are greatly preferred. Gasoline APUs is now seen as an environmental cost and burden instead of a novelty. Number 5. Split rim wheels. In older commercial trucks, split rim wheels were remarkably simple. The two-piece wheels, which had a locking ring, allowed for the effortless change of a tire. This was beneficial for rural operators as they did not need any special equipment to fix a tire. However, these came with some drawbacks, as the ring could explosively come undone and severely hurt the mechanic. By the 1970s, OSHA guidelines enforced the move towards one-piece tubeless wheels as they were safer and lighter. Today, split rims are completely unused in modern trucks, which have single-piece alloy or steel wheels with sleek bead locks. Vintage trucks, while still having split rims, do not use them in commercial purposes. Unlike modern trucks, they serve as a painful reminder of the balance between safety and practicality in early car engineering. Number 6, dual-fuel engines, gasoline-diesel. In the 70s oil crisis, manufacturers like Cummins and Detroit Diesel worked on dual-fuel engines that started off with gasoline and switched to diesel under load. These systems were designed to tackle cold start issues and lower fuel expenses, but their reliability was a problem. With gasoline, its low ignition pre-detonation, or knocking, and its complex fuel structure means it needs to be routinely tuned. Advancements in diesel internal combustion engine technology like turbocharging, direct injection, and glow plugs made dual fuel systems unnecessary, and by the 90s, dual fuel systems were considered obsolete. Modern biodiesel and natural gas engines are designed to capture emissions while being efficient, all without the compromise of a 1970s hybrid. The same goes for trucks. Dual-fuel vehicles are now irrelevant due to cleaner, single-fuel alternatives. Only a few niche departments still use them. Number 7. Chain drive transmissions. Old trucks, like the Mack AC Bulldog, use chain-driven transmissions to relay the power from the engine into the wheels. It made use of rugged roller chains, much like the chains used in bikes, but these were housed in tough outer cases. They were extremely noisy, required a lot of oil, and were easy to wear down. However, they were very durable. Gear-driven transmissions instantly became popular in the 1950s due to their smoother operation, effective fuel economy, and ease of shifting gears. Today, trucks utilize automated manual transmissions, AMT, or fully automatic transmissions that are monitored by a computer. Chain drives are still found in some specialized machines but are extremely rare. If a chain drive is found, it is only in restorable antiques. This type of engineering, surprisingly, was consistent during a time when a lot of things were designed during the brute force era. Number 8, hand crank starters. In the 1920s and the 1930s, when electric starters were not developed, models like the Ford Model TT had a manual process. It featured a hand crank that the driver had used to power the engine. This was an excruciatingly long and extremely dangerous process. Not only did you risk a broken wrist if you cranked it wrong, the engine could also backfire. Electric starters were developed by Delco and other businesses and replaced the entire process through the push of a button. By the 1950s, hand cranks were relegated to being used in emergencies on farm equipment. Now they have completely disappeared from commercial trucks, which now use keyless ignition and automatic start systems. Hand cranks only display in vintage vehicle shows, representing the suffering that came with early-day trucking. Number 9, vent windows, wing windows. Typically found in trucks in the 50s and 70s, such as the International Harvester Lodestar, trucks had these small triangular panes before the main door windows instead of vent doors. These windows were hand-operated, used to rotate in order to control the flow of air. Although working superbly in keeping the car cool, these windows were unable to stop from letting noise, rain, and dirt entering the car. And by the 80s, these models had cabs sealed with HVACs along with sliding windows, making vent doors irrelevant. Now trucks have frameless windows alongside other advanced forms of ventilation to gain better control of the airflow and space in the truck, while also leveling up the truck's aesthetics. Retro fans continue to add wing windows or their customizations, but these design features are no longer available on any production vehicles, replacing convenience-based designs. Number 10, single round headlights. Trucks from bygone eras, like the Chevrolet Apache and Ford F-Series bonus-built models, had a distinct bold look because of the separate single round headlights they sported. By the 1980s, federal laws and new research in aerodynamics compelled manufacturers to switch towards using rectangular or composite lights. The new designs were able to focus beams much better, met newer safety requirements, and helped decrease drag. In today's world, LED arrays and adaptive lighting systems provide the most visibility with the least amount of energy needed. Round headlights only remain on retro-styled cars or cut-em builds like the Jeep Wrangler, serving as a nostalgic reminder for trucks from the golden ages. Number 11. Non-synchronized transmissions, crash boxes. Trucks from the early 20th century, like the Mack AB and International Harvester KB series, used to sport non-synchronized manual transmissions, or crash boxes. These gearboxes require drivers to master double clutching, a method where the clutch has to be pressed 2 times before lowering the gears. It was extremely painful for the driver to operate a car this way because without synchromesh gears, the shocks and grinding were unbearable. Professional truck drivers were probably the only ones that knew how to operate these cars due to how advanced and mechanically skilled one had to be. But the immense taxing physical exertion needed and long learning process caused synchronized transmissions to become the norm in the 50s and 60s. By the 1980s, fully synchronized manuals were the norm, and the adoption of automatics and today's automated manual transmissions, AMTS, have made non-synchro gearboxes almost obsolete in commercial use. Aside from vintage truck rallies or certain specialty vocational trucks, crash boxes are rarely seen anymore. While they are adored for their rawness and unsophisticated driving style, they are not functional in today's logistics. Number 12. Gravity-fed fuel systems. Many, including the Ford Model TT, relied on gravity fuel systems that used a tank placed on the roof where the gas flowed freely to the carburetor pre-1930s. This design was simplistic and effective for low-power engines, but quickly fell apart during steep hills or rapid acceleration, leading to a loss of fuel. The high-compression engines from the 1930s put pressure on fuel delivery, forcing the implementation of mechanical fuel pumps. After the 1950s, electric fuel pumps and later on electronic injection systems like Detroit Diesel's DDEC made the gravity method outdated. Modern trucks utilize advanced fuel injection systems that far exceed the efficiency, emissions, and combustion of the vehicle compared to the crude gravity method. Nowadays, gravity-fed systems only exist in ancient farm trucks or as museum artifacts, a product from the experimental approach to automotive engineering. Number 13. Mechanical leaf spring suspension. The stiffness based on the weight. This certainly enhanced comfort for the driver and provided a smoother ride on highways. In the 2000s, air suspension became the norm for long-distance trucks, and leaf springs were only used in vocational vehicles like dump trucks. Today's Number 14. External engine brakes. Early engine brakes, for example the Jacobs engine brake developed in 1961, were custom-fitted parts that made it possible to redirect the exhaust of an engine to assist in slowing down trucks during descents. While these systems were quite effective in diminishing the suffering to the truck's wheel brakes, they were very noisy and hence banned in noise-controlled areas. From the 1980s, integrated compression release engine brakes, still called Jake brakes, were the norm as they enabled the truck to decelerate smoothly while being quiet. Modern trucks use a combination of engine braking, exhaust braking, and regenerative braking in hybrids, making standalone external units obsolete. The original Jake brake still evokes the same reverence, but like all things, it has been modernized, and now its successors are built directly into engine control units. Number 15. Wooden spoke wheels. Trucks of the early 1900s, like Autocar Model U, used wooden spoke wheels that were light and inexpensive, but distinctly susceptible to rotting and heavy loads. All steel wheels, dubbed artillery wheels, replaced wooden ones in the 1930s, which offered the strength and durability for cross-country freight transportation. Modern trucks utilize forged aluminum or composites wheels for high strength and weight savings. Wooden spokes are now only seen in the steampunk restorations of pre-1930s vehicles and are a reminder of the roots of trucking and horse-drawn wagons. These undiscovered innovations of the trucks remember us how much the sector has progressed. From split rims to gas turbines, each one speaks of innovation and change. Which of these would you choose to bring back? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of trucking history. Thank you for watching, and always remember, the only thing more out of touch than the truck trends is the rearview mirror.